Good morning. Good morning. Hey, what's happening? It's Marquese Martin Hayes, and it is time for Thriving Thursdays. I can't wait to jump in. There are some things that we need to discuss, and so I am looking forward to it today. If you didn't capture the title, I meant what I said. Damn it, talk to me. Politics and religion are not sacred. It's one of the biggest lies we've been told, and so as I'm setting on my screen here, I just really want you to consider, I need to get on this video and I need to interact with Marquese because I do hold it true. Or he's right, I don't hold it true. And he's saying something that I need to hear, and perhaps I can contribute because, guys, one of the things that I have learned that you are probably aware of also is really simple. To keep us divided is the best way to make anything happen. And as a culture, they've done an amazing job at keeping us at odds with one another. And unfortunately, we've taken it to the extreme where we don't respect one another in a lot of instances, particularly in these two areas. But these two areas define who we get to be in life. They impact who we are, and they also divide us and keep us separated and disconnected. So I want to take today and jump into it a little bit. So feel free to jump in the chat as I start expressing some of my ideas, because I am not only interested in expressing my ideas, but I really want to interact with you and discover your truth around it. All right, so let's dig in. Boom. So who said that these were sacred, and why would they? Why do we not talk about our politics more openly? Yes, I know there's the Facebook rant. That's great, but that's not what I'm talking about. The Facebook rant doesn't take us somewhere. It can stimulate, it can start a dialogue, but that's not what I'm talking about. A lot of times those conversations end up and we're just like bucking against one another. Well, I said this, or you, that person stinks, and a bunch of crap that means nothing. Because at the end of the day, guess what? I don't know Joe Biden. I don't know Donald Trump personally. I only know the actions that they put out, and I only know what's important to me. So why would someone tell me that it's not safe to talk about politics? Or better, let's break it down. Let's get really practical. Why is it that many of us are carrying on conducting our business, not talking about politics and how divided things are right now? Why are we pretending that it's not a topic we should talk about? That's interesting to me. Like, it's so taboo, shall I say, that we don't even actually communicate our truths and interact with others because we're afraid that we might ruffle somebody's feathers. We're afraid that we might disagree. We're afraid somebody might not understand us. All of those things can happen, should happen, will happen, but what's that got to do with not talking about it? You see, for me, I don't personally care if you voted for Donald Trump or not. I care about why you voted for whoever you voted for. Why? Because you freaking matter to me. Like, we've got to live in this world together, right? I mean, come on, let's be sincere and honest about it. So if you're hiding behind closed doors or afraid of being called a racist or whatever the case is, or you're about your money or you're about humanity and you care more about your money than humanity, or you care more about humanity than your money, whatever that is, doesn't matter to the degree that we don't talk about it. It doesn't work for me to act like I can just continue selling my skincare, or I can continue coaching and talking about nutrition and being happy and finding ways to be happy. It doesn't work when the elephant, no pun intended, is in the room and we're not dealing with it. So what is it in your life that keeps you from being open and communicating about it? Because we hold it like, I'm a Democrat, I am a Republican, when the reality is that you're neither. You don't even believe everything Republicans believe. You don't even likely believe everything Democrats believe. But we know that we have certain things in common that keep us connected. And I just realized my microphone may or may not be working, so give me 1 second. I'm going to grab a mic to make sure you can hear me. Just to be certain, because this conversation's got to be heard. And so those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, I apologize if you haven't heard me. I'll make the adjustments in the edits later. But it's imperative that you hear me because I need to hear you. And our ability to interact, communicate, connect, and exchange is everything. From my perspective, that's been the greatest trick that's been played on us, is that we don't talk. So I want to make sure you are hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth. All right, there we go. So now I know you can hear me. If you couldn't hear me before, you definitely can now. But let's talk. Like, bring it to me. What is this that you don't get out there and communicate your truth as all this is happening? Because it's happening right in front of us. So we can pretend that it's not, but it is. Like, the country is divided. We could say, it's rural people versus city people. All right, let's start there. Why? Why would they keep us apart? What is the benefit to the system that we don't have these dialogues? You want to talk about your faith? What's the benefit to that? Because from what I understand, all faiths focus on love. Yeah? I mean, if your faith doesn't focus on love, then that's interesting. And I'm not sure why you'd be practicing it. But, hey, to each his own to a degree. And if your faith doesn't practice love, then why are we talking about that? Why would you gravitate toward that? Like, this whole idea of fear and separation, conquer and divide has been playing against us over and over and over and over and over. So much so that we don't even think anymore. It's woven into our fabric. Now, I do believe in winners and losers. Don't misunderstand me. But in games, because you can't judge my win or loss in life. You can only ascertain what I'm doing or not doing. Am I contributing or not? That's really all that you can judge me on in life. You may make well more than I do, or I may make more than you do, but what I'm doing with my life and contributing to you, or you contributing to me, those are the things that we need to count, and those can't be measured in wins and losses. So why the divide? I suppose that the divide is put there to make us numb. Because if we're divided, then we don't have the opportunity to sit down and truly interact with one another in a way that will be meaningful, that will cause us to really go, wait a minute, I want what you want what I want. How do we do this together? I didn't read the book. I probably need to, but I believe it's down south. There was a Muslim community, it may be vice versa, and a Jewish church, a Jewish synagogue moved in. And the two leaders decided, instead of making a muck of things, that they would get together and create community together. That they would make sure that the community was able to reflect both of their beliefs, and they've thrived. They've written a book about it, etc. They've been interviewed. I don't know if it was CNN or what, but the point is this: why are you afraid? I mean, so what if my feathers get ruffled? If you're disrespecting me, that's a different conversation, right? We can do this without disrespecting one another and find out how we can make a difference to get what we both want. I'm reminded of Esther Hicks. I love The Voice of Abraham. One of the things they said is, we don't all want BMWs. You see, what they're referring to is, I don't always want the same amount of money you want because my priorities might be different, or you may not want the same amount of impact I want because your priorities may be different. But if we're connected in dialogue and exchange, then we can help each other get there faster, can't we? But if we're divided, then I'm angry, right? Because I'm not able to have impact, which is important to me, and you're not able to make your money, which is important to you. And so, as a result, we have this going on. And humanity doesn't move forward, but agenda does. Agenda does. I'm not anti-government. I don't hate it and all those things. I'm not coming from that place. I'm coming from the place of, why are you and I not talking? Why are you hiding? Why am I hiding? Why are we not engaged in dialogue that connects us? Why are we not stretching ourselves to come together, the different sides. I don't want to read about you on the news. You see, I'm a black man, as you obviously know, but a lot of people read the news and think they know me. And then they judge me accordingly, or they give me the token black man who's focused, who's different, who's unique, who's articulate. Screw you with that limited view. It's not who I am. So if you don't know me, why not? Why not? Why are you not getting past where you are? Is it because the Great Divide has worked so well that you're so busy trying to make your money or do what it is that you do that you're caught up in the system of it all, so we don't get to have community? I'm not blaming you. I'm talking about the truth of what's actually happening and keeping us disconnected. Am I so wrapped up in my purpose that I don't have time to listen to someone else and get in their world and find out what's happening? Oh, I've been guilty of that. Absolutely. And then I'm left to judge them based on my assumptions, right? So why are you not connecting? Come on, people, talk to me. I'm not here by myself. You guys are listening. I can see it. I want to know your thoughts around that. What is the benefit of keeping us divided? Why are you not bringing your faith to the table? Why are you not bringing your politics to the table so that we can exchange and connect and stretch ourselves? I can tell you this, if you're trying to get me to believe what you believe, then that's probably not going to work. Why? Because you're trying to tell me I'm wrong subtly. But if you could just love me where I am and for who I am without pulling on me to follow you, but pulling on me to be a better me, then we might have somewhere to go. See, because there's nothing wrong with you choosing to vote for who you vote for if we are able to talk and understand where we're both trying to go. I got it. Different pathways, etc. I got it. I do. I'm not even opposed to that. But the idea that you can't talk your politics or share your politics with me or me with you, and us really sit down and find out what's actually happening, calling it for what it is, calling our fears for what they are. I'm in a dialogue with someone now, and one of the things that is surfacing for me is that, oh, they're afraid I want to take from them. I'm not interested in taking from you. You kidding me? I'm just saying that what you do isn't better than what I do. And we both need. I mean, let's look at teachers, for example. Let's look at our public education system, which is not in the top 10 in the world. It's just not. Our universities have gotten recognition to that degree, but our public education system is not there. Teachers spend more time with our children than we do, but we don't honor them. Why don't we honor them equally? What is that? I mean, that speaks to how twisted we are. That we don't take the people who raise, who influence, who stimulate, who guide, who nurture, who help mature our next generation. We don't even care about them. But we do care about cops and making sure cops are policing and taking care of bad people. Well, number one, I'm not a cop hater. One of my first cousins is one, so it's not even like that. But my brother was jumped by them, so there's a bigger conversation that needs to be had. Putting that to the side for just a moment, for just one moment, if we took care of our teachers and our public education, the people who spent the most time imparting into our children and provided them with the resources that they need, we probably wouldn't need as much policing as we do. Why? Because we're not talking. We're not figuring out what's missing and making the main thing the main thing. It's much bigger than this freaking election. I love that we're in this pause mode waiting because it F's with us. It challenges us. And I'm moved and challenged just as the rest of you are. But what would happen if we came together just on this teacher thing, on public education? What would happen, right? I know a lot of people, I've been on the school boards. Well, my tax dollars, and therefore, dude, don't go there. Don't go there. Because now we start getting into the systemic racism and all the other things that this country has been built upon. That we need to disregard, blow up, disband, reassess, rebuild, and begin to strengthen. See, I got it. You want what I want, a fair opportunity, the equal opportunity or exchange, but it doesn't shake out like that. It doesn't shake out like that, but that doesn't mean I want something from you in terms of taking what you've earned. I'm talking about how we redistribute, how we reconnect, but we don't get to have those conversations if we're not talking, right? So that's why we don't get to talk politics. And let me just touch religion really quick, because the focus of today, we'll get into religion a little bit, but I don't want to spend too much time today because I have a whole other view about how we should be coexisting when that's not very difficult. But the idea that you and I would not talk about our faith when neither of us can prove what's going to happen in the afterlife? Come on, man. Really? You want to stay away from me, judge me, disassociate with me, not intermarry with me, not engage with me because my faith doesn't match your faith? What you believe that you can't prove? We're disconnected? Like, it's all part of this game of the conquer and divide. It's all part of the game. It keeps us disconnected. And so then when we have a war, or we want to talk about Muslims in this country or others in this country, then we have this entitlement, like, you got it right, I got it wrong, so that agenda can be carried out. When neither of us can prove any damn thing. It's interesting. So talk to me. I'm waiting on y'all. I don't see any conversation in the chat, but I know that I got stuff in my soul, and I'll just keep pouring into it. The next idea on the list that I talked about, aren't we civilized? Like, we claim to be a first world country, as if there's such a thing. Like, we're so advanced. We're here. We've arrived. We're it. Yet we don't get to have conversations that actually matter. We hide behind a side, behind a team, instead of connecting. What is that about? Why are we acting like savages? To conquer and divide. Because to me, I thought we lived in a civilized world, but when I look at some of the news I've been reading lately, third world countries are doing a hell of a lot better than we are with just COVID alone. Have you ever looked at the happiness index? I'm just asking, because we're supposed to be so civilized, right? Have you ever looked at the happiness index for countries around the world and asked yourself, why are we, the United States, not in the top 10? I mean, have you ever thought about that? Is that because we don't connect? Is that because we're so focused on our dollar, focused on our agenda, that we don't care about somebody else? Because that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about the reality of I need you and you need me, but we're acting like we don't. And the conversation that I hear so often, well, if someone worked as hard as I did, then they deserve it. And if they don't, then they don't. Such BS. Such BS. Because you can't judge how hard somebody worked based on the opportunities that's been given to you. Yes, I said given to you. Now, that doesn't mean you didn't work. Do not misunderstand me. I'm not disrespecting your effort. I'm talking about the pathways that have been made available, bigger than black and white opportunities. And whether you've been given or not been given, there's a need for exchange. You've not been given for the sake of ruling over, being separate, taking away, thinking you've arrived because you gonna die and I'm gonna die. I love toys, but toys aren't my priority. They might be your priority, and that's cool. I've got no problem with that. But you're not better than me. I'm not better than you. I need you. You need me. But if we're divided into these schisms and things that don't truly exist, then we don't get to change humanity. We don't get to live the fulfilled life that's available for us. We get to live embittered, embattled, and disconnected, thinking we've arrived. Let me rephrase that. Pretending that we've arrived. Pretending. See, we have awarded the wrong things in our life and in our country. And so I get it. I get why you think or you feel what you feel. I'm not saying I know you because we haven't spent that time, remember? I'm saying I understand it generally speaking because the divide is so evident. It's so evident. And if we're not careful, we fall for the game that's thrown to us. Oh, they're just doing this, they're doing that, they're not working hard, they're lazy, they're taking up space, they don't deserve it, they haven't earned it, and you don't know caca about who they are, what they've done, what they've not done, what they've been given, what they've not been given, the opportunities they took, the opportunities they didn't take, but yet you have a belief and then you hold to it as if it's what it is, not understanding that perhaps what you've created, developed, and should be contributing could make the difference. Or perhaps, just perhaps, they might make the difference for you. I was in a conversation the other day where someone was talking about what happened to the Black family and how divorce has impacted us and it's just ravaging blah, 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 blah. You know what I told that person? I said, look, here's the deal. Divorce, number one, this is not a marriage counseling thing because, hey, I'm divorced, but I can still talk about it. But the truth is, in that conversation, this is just giving you an example of how we think and don't think about things sometimes. If the Black family is the minority population in America and the statistic is 51% or higher in America, then it's not even a Black family thing at all. It's a family thing. It's a community thing. Something that's missing from the fabric of our society. Why? Because of the Great Divide. I'm calling it that today. I don't know. Maybe there's a better name for it. But why the hell aren't you connecting and talking to me? Why are you not exchanging with me like a man and a woman that you are, or a man that you are, so that we can figure out collectively together a way to get what we both want? It's not that difficult. We just got to spend the time together. Interesting. So the idea that we've been living behind, this in the comments, you can follow where this conversation is going today, that if you're right, then why not talk? If you're right, if your stance is right, then why are you not talking to, but in discussion with me or someone else? Not to convince, but for discussion's sake. Exchange, enlightenment happens in that. Right? Because if your way is so right, you don't have to defend it. You just get to be it. And if your way is so right, don't you want right for me? And if you don't, what is that about? Because here's the deal. If I don't have right for me, then you need to understand that you're going to be endangered. Yeah. Because if I don't have right, then I'm going to be doing wrong, right? I mean, that's what's going to happen if I don't have right. So it's to your benefit to connect with me. It's to your advantage to be in community, to make that bridge since you have right, so that we can connect. I do think it's important to drop walls and be open to hear the heart of others. Agreed. Tanji, I am 100% agreed. I am 100% agreed. So if you're right, then why are you not open to me? Right? Because if you're right, you don't have to defend it. It's just what's so. We don't have to argue about the principle 1 + 1 = 2. Like we don't have to argue about that. No matter what I think or no matter what you think about it, it's just what's so. But ideology is a whole other thing. How you're processing, why you're processing, and our ability to be vulnerable, what that offers us. Man, I want to be in a discussion with you live right now so that we can grow, so that we can exchange. But if you're right, I have a question for you. Does that make me wrong? Right? So like we look at the country right now, Republican, Democrat, Trump, Biden, he's right, he's wrong, he's immoral, he's immoral. Dude, aren't you immoral? You didn't know it was going there, did you? Truth is, you are. And I'm not saying we're judging morals as right or wrong. That's not what I'm pushing for. What I'm pushing to is there's so much more in conversation that's available to us. But if you think I'm just wrong because you believe you're right, then we're going to have conflict. Because then you're closed. Tanji talked about that, having an open heart to drop walls and be open to hear. I got a buddy on my page. He's probably listening right now. Who knows? Who cares? A lot of times what he wants to do, a lot of times, Oscar, I'll come back to you in a minute. A lot of what he wants to do is just be right, not be in exchange. But when we're not in exchange, we don't get to discover what we're actually looking for. We're just pushing someone else's propaganda. Oscar says, I'm not sure I'm following what you're saying. A person's position is not right or wrong. Oscar, I'm not saying a person's position is right or wrong. I'm saying how we interact or don't interact around one another is where the problem comes again. Because when my position disagrees with your position, what we see a lot of is this headbanging, disconnect, which keeps us separated. But Oscar, if you and I had opposing positions and we were able to exchange and come together in conversation, we might discover we're not in opposition at all. We might discover that I might vote this way, you might vote that way, or choose, but I can help you get what you're looking for. You can help me get what I'm looking for, which then allows us to be able to create a democracy that looks a lot more like we want it to look, which allows us to have community so that your kids and my kids and you can walk down the street and I can walk down the same street that Bob and Linda walks down, and we can both, or all four of us, be connected without fear. Like, that's what I'm talking about. So I hope that answers the question that you were asking. But I got to tell you, the idea that you being right makes me wrong is really frustrating. It's really frustrating. So the opportunity for us is to come together and connect and exchange. And I'm extending that. I want to do that. Oscar says he believes in compromise. I think compromise is natural. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree at all. But we can't compromise if you're coming to me telling me I'm wrong. No, or let's rephrase that. If you won't come to me at all, start there. Or if you come to me with a wall, unwilling to listen, defending someone else's propaganda, defending someone else's truth, when we haven't talked. See, that's where the power lies. The power lies when you and I talk, when we're in discussion, and when we are in exchange. When that happens, then we can elect who we want to be in power to make sure that continues to happen, or whatever that looks like. But the game is to keep us disconnected, Oscar, and that's where the challenge lies. That's what I'm pushing for. How do we build a system? How do we tear down the existing system so that we can create that? Interesting from my perspective. The next idea that I put up is, what's the benefit of keeping us separate or keeping this stuff a secret? What's the benefit? Like, why? Why do they encourage us not to talk about politics and faith? As if we can't talk about politics and faith. It's to control what we do, where our dollars go, where our energies go. But I welcome it. I hope that you welcome it. Not with me. I'm an easy dude to get along with. I'm easy because I'm open. Generally speaking. I'm open, generally speaking. And I stretch myself when I know that I'm closed, because I realize that if I stay closed, I might miss something really amazing that could change my life for the good. So I'm not the model, but I'm pushing toward keeping myself open.
There's no secret that if you are closet racist and all this other stuff, dude, just be who you are. I'm okay with that. But let's have exchange. Because if we can have exchange, I know what's possible. And that's why I'm pushing this envelope. I know what's possible. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember the guy's name, but there's a gentleman, African-American. Maybe he's not even African-American. He's African something. Anyway, long story short, he was on a TED Talk and he began his talk with a Ku Klux Klan suit, not on him, but on a hanger in a portable wardrobe container that he had next to him. I found that very interesting and odd. And so he began to talk about how he acquired that. He began to talk about how him and a former Ku Klux Klan leader had become friends. And they had become friends because he went in with an open mind, seeking to understand the viewpoint, not to change it, not to fight, but to understand and connect. And over time, long story short, they became best friends. So much so that he would go to Ku Klux Klan rallies, a brother, and be behind the scenes with them, and no one harassed him. He didn't have to dress up. He didn't have to hide. And I saw a scene where literally the white Ku Klux Klan leader was walking through a crowd with his black friend with him. Someone yelled something. And basically what he said was, I'm going to use his words as I remember it, shut up. You're more niggers out there than he's ever been or will ever be. What he was talking about is the true definition of ignorant people. He was protecting his black friend because he realized their ignorance was ignorant, dumb, and ridiculous. So what's possible is that Ku Klux Klan leader stepped down from his position because he realized that there was so much more in common with someone he made a bond with that he brought to rallies and spoke around town with and did communication publicly with, that it was more important to be connected. See, the idea that you and I stay separate and disconnected means we get to get fed information that keeps us that way and beliefs that aren't necessarily true. Oscar says, unfortunately, I don't feel what has transpired is not good for anyone. We have both sides trying to control us, especially the minorities. Oscar, I would agree with you, which is why I'm pushing this conversation. I'm pushing this conversation to get us off our arses, to connect with one another and begin to get in conversations that matter to us all. Your politics matter because that talks about your money, yeah, and your beliefs, and your faith matters because it talks about your belief and what you follow. The two topics that they consider taboo, but we're told we shouldn't talk about. But then the two topics we need to talk about. They might be our gateway to freedom. Real freedom, not the crap we think we have. And so I'm asking you, when you gonna start talking to your neighbor that doesn't look like you, that doesn't sound like you? And don't listen. You've been friends with a black person. I'm just using this as an example. You've been friends with a black person for a minute. Okay, I got it. Great. Go find a new one, please. Invite them to your house. Like, oh yeah, I got a good one that's in my crawl right now. You can tell I'm from the country, huh? Go find somebody whose sexual preference doesn't match yours and become friends with them. Let them come to your house for dinner. Interact with them. Be in community. What you afraid of? They're gonna do something to you? Huh? You afraid they're gonna influence your children? Huh? What? Because it's the fear that's controlling us. We don't have to live a life that's fear controlled. But we have a responsibility, if we don't want to live a life that's fear controlled, to do something different than what we've been doing. And I'm here to shed light on that crap. Step out of your comfort zone. I'm begging you. Because if you don't, the crap we're dealing with continues. And then we get to blame them as to why it happened, right? Oh my God, if they were just not that way. It's all bullcrap. It's you hiding again. We do a good job of that as Americans. We hide and blame other people, when the reality is that it's you and it's me that's the problem. Because you won't do something, because I won't do something different than what I've been doing to connect and learn, not teach, learn from someone else. Come on, man. Y'all could plan with me. We've got to do this. There is freedom for you on the other side. If you are willing to get out of your comfort zone and stretch yourself to connect with someone who doesn't look like you, talk like you, think like you, feel like you, breathe like you. I'm so sick and tired of the rhetoric about immigrants, the rhetoric about Muslims, the rhetoric about minorities, the rhetoric around the looters. I'm tired of it. Get off and do something. Learn. Go learn. Because if you learn, you might discover, oh my God, this makes perfect sense. And you have an opportunity to create something as a result of it because you got involved. Instead of sitting on the sidelines like we typically do as Americans, complaining, groping, and not grinding like we say we do. Blindfolded like this. Me, my four, and no more. How sad of a effing life is that that's all you can think about. You're so much better than this. You're so much more than this. There's so much more in you, available from you. But if this is all you do, you don't get to experience how great you are, let alone the people who need it from you. You might not care about them. I got it. Because the way you've been conditioned, the way you've been hurt, the pain you haven't dealt with. But what about for you? And we teach in our seminars that when you deal with your audience, you got to think about it. What's in it for me? The with them, right? Like everyone wants to know what's in it for me. Well, number one, that's a shitty way of looking at life. Very American focused. But hey, it is what it is at the same time. So what's in it for you is you get to see who you could be without hiding behind politics, without hiding behind your religion, without hiding behind someone else's rhetoric, without hiding behind your fears, your pain, your embarrassment, and your shame. But if you don't stretch out, you don't get to discover that. So I'm here to nudge you. I'm here to push you. There's so much possible if we exchange. But there's also sad news. If we don't, I promise you it ain't going to get no better. I promise you that. I promise you that. Why? Because we'll be left to our own demise, guided by the fear and hate that's surrounding all of us, afraid. And when you're afraid, you attack, just like an animal. I ain't no different than you. It doesn't look good for you. It doesn't look good for me if we don't start exchanging. And that's sad. Because you're capable of it. I'm capable of it. I want it. You need it. So let's get it. This is Marquese Martin Hayes. I'm talking about Thriving Thursday in a different way. I want to thrive. You think you're thriving. Let's figure out what it looks like if we both thrive. Peace.